Blessed be the fruit.
May the Lord open.
From novel to film, Badaptation.
Hi, and welcome to Badaptations.
This time we will be reviewing The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood.
The book itself is getting a ton of buzz right now because of a recent Hulu adaptation.
Although we would like to review the TV series in the future, we will leave that to a time when all the episodes are out. First, a little background on the book. So The Handmaid's Tale was published in 1985. Some would call it dystopia, some would label it speculative fiction. Margaret Atwood herself resists these sorts of labels, particularly science fiction. In fact, she and Ursula Le Guin, who's another really famous fantasy and science fiction author, they had this feud about whether we should call The Handmaid's Tale science fiction. But anyways, brief summary of the book is that it is set in the Republic of Gilead, which is in the United States. People have been split into different roles in the society. So you've got Marthas, who are, I guess, kitchen maids. Mm-hmm. You have wives who are, the wives of important political figures, men in the government, such as the commander, who's another major character in the book. And then you have handmaids. So this is a time in which a lot of the population has become sterile. And so handmaids are select women who have in the past been shown to have been fertile, so they are expected to get pregnant and then have a baby for a commander and his wife. Her body is just a container. The story basically is Offred's account, and we're given flashbacks, we're given out of order thoughts and events.
The film was made in 1990, directed by Volker
Schlöndorff.
Volker Schlöndorff.
A German man. It was direct. You know what? No, I'm not going to do this.
We're just going to put it on the bottom.
Yep. The film was released in 1990 and adapted for the screen by Harold Pinter. The film stars Natasha Richardson as Offred and Robert Duvall as the commander and Faye Dunaway as Serena Joy, or the commander's wife. And so a lot of the summary that Amy just gave is used as background in the movie, but there are quite a few differences, especially in the ending and the way that various characters connect. Probably the biggest difference is that the film is told in a very linear perspective.
So when we were looking at the film for a possible adaptations review, we first saw the movie poster, which is kind of ridiculous. It looks like an erotica cover. Mm-hmm. It actually does, as Stephanie mentioned, stick pretty closely to the novel until the ending. I believe we start with Luke and Kate, mm-hmm. which...
Yeah, we don't know where that name comes from at all.
Luke and Kate are running away, and they have their daughter with them, and they're trying to escape, presumably to Canada.
There are flashbacks, but there's not plot in the flashbacks, and it's just Kate, who is now Offred, thinking back to her daughter Jill in the snow. So Luke gets shot and he's killed outright, and so there's no question that Luke is dead. In the book, it's pretty vague.
Yes, it's very ambiguous in the book, and that's actually something that drives Offred forward, is this uncertainty.
Kate is separated from her daughter and brought to this processing center. What's fascinating is you just have this hammering and awful industrial noise in the background as women are being processed and moved around. You get marks of Ellis Island and the Holocaust in there, with people being marked and separated. After everybody gets sorted, then the fertile women are shipped off into an actual animal transport truck. And what's fascinating is in this scene, there's actually, it's like a clucking noise in the background as the women are screaming. And so you really see that these women are becoming breeding stock.
So another part in this scene is that you notice that the people of color are separated out from white people. And this is a minor point in the book, but it's really important. So I believe in the novel and in the film, the reason that there are no people of color, particularly black people, is because they've been shipped off to the colonies. So the colonies are full of radioactive waste. It's a very dangerous place to live, and the people who are sent there are just put to work.
And so this is a good segue into discussing the Rachel and Leah Center, or the Red Center. This is where the film kind of moves away from the book. When Offred is in the center, she is in the center, and then after that she does not return. However, in the movie, we see Offred navigating these spaces, going back and forth. So this is how the film itself navigates some of the more difficult, I guess, pieces of the text that depend on the non-linear plot. I'll also note that there's some really sweet fashion choices in the 1990s film. Apparently, in dystopic worlds, there are scrunchies. So, just keep that in mind. Everything else will go to hell in the future of this.
But scrunchies will remain.
But scrunchies will remain.
So another point about the fashion, clothing is very important. Part of the way that the different sections of society are policed are through what they wear. So Martha's wear green, the wives wear blue, and the handmaids wear red with white wings. So part of this is the wings stop them from looking at one another.
The film itself does not do as much. The handmaids don't have the wings. They just wear a headscarf, veil, and so Offred's face is never covered, and that's such a big part in the sense that by covering the face with the veil and the wings, you're also showing that women are no longer objects and they can't tempt men.
So in the book, it's women like Serena Joy who really encouraged this movement. They thought they were creating a utopia for women. So one of the major points is that there's no more pornography. I think that this comes out of a moment in feminism where in the late 70s and early 80s where the feminist sex wars, where they're debating whether, so you have scholars like Catherine McKinnon and Andrea Dworkin who are arguing against porn. And that's kind of what the wives, or Serena Joy specifically, are arguing. Patriarchy gets women to police themselves.
I would love to talk about Serena Joy because this was probably the moment that the movie really let me down, because Serena Joy, as Amy articulated, is this really complex character, but in the film we lose that entirely, and I love the fact that Serena Joy is this withered, desiccated, arthritic creature who
with a limp
who is kind of this shell of what she used to be, who's contained to knitting and probably unraveling all of her knitting constantly. But in the film, that's completely lost, and that sucks because you have Faye Dunaway, who probably could have played it up in a really hammy way.
No more hang on!
And instead, you kind of get this passive, off to the side Serena. We don't really get her backstory. We don't get anything other than she just desperately wants a baby. And again, that's what makes Atwood's text so fascinating, is these women, that it's not just because you're a woman you're subjugated and you have a hard time. It's women who are subjugated who then subjugate women below them. And you lose that in the film, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's one of the major downsides of a film, is you only have so much time.
Probably another, again, character who we kind of lose some of the nuance is Moira, who in the text plays a really pivotal role in Offred's life in constructing this strong female friendship before the war. And so in the film, Moira is at the Red Center with Kate before she's Offred, I guess.
Yeah.
She does retain some of that kind of spirit of rebellion and resistance in the film, and so we do get the escape scene. The escape itself is very different than the book, because we don't get it firsthand. We actually see this offered as part of the escape.
Later we find her at Jezebel. She's Jezebel. They're basically prostitutes or call girls. In the film, it's this weird, like, Logan's Run Mall-esque type of thing, where everybody has all these costumes. They're supposed to be antiquated costumes from before the war, so you see Playboy Bunny costumes and cheerleader costumes. And so Moira's costume in the film is this really great play on the red dress.
You look like the whore of Babylon.
In the book, we don't get this as much in the movie. Moira just she gives up.
So we sort of talked about the different roles that have been enforced upon women in the society, but you also have different roles for men. So you have the commander, Fred. So that's an explanation for Offred. It's a patronymic. She's of Fred. Offred's on her third commander, and something will happen after. So there will be consequences, despite the fact that it's probably the commander who can't have children. Serena Joy and Nick devised this plan because Serena Joy, she really wants a baby, not to necessarily have a baby, but in order to increase her status in society. And they created this plan where Offred's gonna have sex with Nick in order to conceive. The adaptation in the film, it really just seems like, oh, she's hot for Nick. That's the real motivating factor. In the book, we certainly see how that could be a factor, but there's also, it's a power play.
Yeah.
Is this your first placement? Yes, it is.
The commander and Serena Joy are her first family, and that changes quite a bit because there's not a lot at stake being with this first family, and it actually changes the relationship with the commanders. Nick is probably the one part that does play into the weird advertising that's slightly porny, in the sense that there's some weird gratuitous like breast shots.
He's police, he's law enforcement.
He also washes cars.
And to leer at the handmaids,
yeah,
basically.
He's just super creepy, pervy.
Yeah.
He also poses very sexually in his vest occasionally. Like, the vest is a really pivotal part in the movie. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just like washes cars.
Yeah, he also looks a little bit like Ryan Lochte.
Oh! And he sounds like Joe Pesci. So.
He's just this amalgamation of all like weird, creepy, terrible men.
Yeah.
Anyways, in the film, I really think that they're striving to make this a real connection between the two. And this then plays into the ending, which is the really major difference. Also, a thing that I just remembered is entirely omitted from the film is nolite te bastardes carborundorum. So, nolite te bastardes carborundorum is fake Latin, and I still can't pronounce like correct Latin, so it doesn't even matter. But that is the line that people remember from the book. Like, people have gotten tattoos of it. It's a schoolboy's Latin joke that is meant to mean, don't let the bastards get you down. And this also gives us a little bit of history, because she finds that scrawled in the room where the previous handmaid had presumably hung herself. And then when she is in these meetings in the commander's office, she comes across it in one of the books. So now we know from that he did the same thing to the previous handmaid. This is all like a game to him.
Actually, in the film, we don't really see that Offred's lust for words. She savors them because they can't read. Women can't read. They're not allowed to have access to words, and there's just this long stretch of time where just nothing happens.
Right.
And we get this in the book, but in the movie, it seems like time moves relatively quickly.
So in the book, the eyes have put her in a van, and she's being taken away, and she has no idea if she's been snitched on or if this is a rescue operation. Nick tells her, oh, we're saving you, we're Mayday. But she can't tell. And we aren't given a definitive answer. So we're left in this, we're left waiting, like her. And that's entirely different in the film.
Yeah. So in the film, they try to play up Nick and Offred's relationship as a romance. And that really fits with the tone of the ending as well, which is supposed to be almost hopeful, I would say. It's very clearly, so Offred is pregnant, and what happens is Offred goes up into her room and looks in her drawer, and there's a knife there. As viewers, I was kind of like, come on, do it, do it. And she goes, instead of just a nice gentle stab, she goes right for the neck.
Yeah.
It's pretty fantastic. And then what happens is, you see the commander bleeding out. The eyes in the black van show up. She gets put in the van, and Nick is actually there to help her. And so she is basically, this is an escape attempt. It's definitive. Unlike the book, we know that Nick is part of the Mayday resistance. He's helping her get out. And so the film ends with TV kind of news saying that this Mayday operation is going about, the commander has been murdered, they're looking for the culprit, you see the city being blown up, so you know the resistance is coming out, and the film ends with a shot of Offred, who's back to Kate now, with a dog, be-sweatered, in a nice, gentle, mountainous area with a dog and a really sweet airstream. And
she's waiting for Nick.
She's just thinking of what's going to happen. She hasn't had her baby yet. We don't know what happened to Jill, her daughter. But yeah, that's how that ends.
So that's just, I think it's unforgivable that the film would do that. They're obviously trying to create this message of hope. But the novel is not about that.
Sometimes when we go to films, we like to have hopefulness. Having that hopefulness that the resistance is going to come up and we can all band together and make the world better. And there's a cat. Yay! So now is the moment of truth where we reveal what we felt about the film. So mine is a adaptation. It's definitely, it's not a good adaptation. Although film is always going to be different from the book, it still wasn't good enough to warrant a good adaptation. But it also wasn't that bad. The film is really interesting in the sense that it takes pieces from the book and either elaborates on them and makes them their own or creates its own structure. And although the ending with the dog and the Airstream is, again, as Amy said, pretty unforgivable, I think the idea of the commander getting stabbed in the neck, and that really bumped it up from a badaptation to a madaptation. And just again, the idea that it used the source material in a really constructive way, and I think some of the play with the noise and the visuals in the film really kind of sealed it in for me. So again, it's different, and I think that's what's unique about it, is that it's not just Margaret Atwood on the screen, but again, it's not perfect. So, adaptation for me.
Yeah, and as for me, I've been struggling between a bad adaptation rating or a meh adaptation rating, and I think I'm gonna go for meh adaptation. So the reason I would have given a bad adaptation rating is because of the ending, purely because of the ending and also the marketing. But I think the marketing is misleading because the film itself is actually not terrible, and it does stay true to a lot of the book. We've obviously talked mostly about the differences. I think the spirit of it, except for the ending, is largely on point. So we'll say meh.
Yeah. It's not a bad movie to watch. It's a decent 90s flick, actually. So.
Yeah, I had very low expectations for like a film made in 1990. It's pretty damn good.
So that's our rating. We hope that you will check out the film and definitely read the book if you haven't done so already.
Read the book. And as always, like our video and subscribe to our channel. Please share with your friends, with your enemies. I don't really care. Let us know what you think in the comments. You can also let us know what you think about the TV show. We haven't watched all of it yet, but if we get some really good comments, we might incorporate those in our future video when we do talk about the TV series.
Exactly.
So thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Adaptation.